on corporate communications, building and protecting corporate reputation in digital era. We have Ms. Piyali Reddy with us, who is the Senior Vice President and Head Corporate Communications at Axis Bank. She is responsible for building and protecting the brand through active media engagement, internal and external communications, crisis and online reputation management for the Axis Group. She has more than 20 years of experience spanning different industries. Prior to Axis Bank, Piyali was with HDFC Live, where she spearheaded pan-India communications, both internal and external, including media. In IDFC, she led communications for the newly launched bank and brand communications for the mutual fund, securities, and PE businesses. In her stint at EY, she was responsible for marketing communications, brand, media, and events for the advisory service line. She has also worked with Blue Dart Express Limited, where she was leading public relations and sustainability for the organization. Piyali is also an economics honors from Calcutta University and an MBA in marketing from the Institute for Technology and Management. Her interest areas are traveling, sports, and music, and she actively pursues performing arts. Over to you, Ms. Piyali, for the evening, and happy learning to everyone.
Thank you so much, Nandita. Really thankful for the introduction. And should I start sharing my screen? Should we start off? Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So yes, I think let's start off. And Nandita, we have been talking for almost 6 months now that we need to, do this, and it's the first time I'm on this platform. So thank you, and it's a privilege. We'll start off with the communications presentation. I've tried capturing a couple of things that Nandita told me are very important for the audience here. I'll try and touch upon as many things as possible, and of course, there would be areas which need a deeper dive. Okay, but that needs to be done at a separate time, perhaps because of the time constraint that we have. But yes, let's start off, and if there are questions in between, I think you can raise hands, and in fact, I'll be stopping once in a while to just figure out if people are following what we are talking over here. Okay, so we start with why communication is critical. Okay, that's the first and the basic question. I think many people who are in business, most of you would be in businesses, trying to, ensure that you have better business numbers, do a lot of things, a lot of activities, initiatives in your specific business domains. And the question that automatically rises is that, why communication is so important. And the answer to that, I'll just try and give a very specific answer. See, today with the advent of technology and the way things are, it's very difficult to be differentiated, okay, in the marketplace. You could have some products and services which are different from the others, but ultimately what happens is that it just takes a couple of months for people to copy it or to just imitate what you've done. What really sets you apart from, of course, the products, of course, your service quality and what you stand for, that is one thing. And the second thing that really sets you apart is how you communicate and have a brand connect. That in itself is a very big thing, because ultimately people connect with brands, with organizations, they relate to the brand, and that's perhaps also something that they take into consideration while making a decision. So yes, communication is very important, especially in this competitive landscape. Things may keep changing, and what we need to do is to ensure that people are abreast of the latest happenings, are aware of what the brand stands for, what is it that you're offering to them. And it's just very important that we focus on communicating the right things to the right set of people. Okay, I usually get asked, by many people that what is the communications landscape right now? What is it really getting into? What are the trends? what is it that is really defining this space, right? And is it anything more than the press releases and conferences that we keep doing? Well, communication has evolved so much in the last 5 years, and what we see is that it's a very different scenario today. It's a holistic approach. It's no more just about press releases and putting out some reactive comments in the media, industry stories, and all. It's all about ensuring that there is a holistic approach to communication to ensure that you're building on your brand and you're also protecting it. So the biggest thing people ask, and probably the most important factor about communications is that it's just not about building the brand. I mean, we do it, even marketing communications does it. But at the end of the day, I think protecting the brand also becomes equally important. We all know when there is a crisis situation in any organization, or there is something that happens which is not in the right domain, perhaps, something which um, is an adverse development, people do realize that protecting the brand and protecting the reputation of the organization is of utmost importance. So this is where also communication comes in. And there are various aspects. So right from strategic positioning of the brand to media management, thought leaderships, we all know there are n number of panels out there, and which are the ones where we should be present. All of that, advocacy, crisis communication, which I already mentioned, and there are traditional media, or which is online reputation management. I'll delve into that a little later. Social media. Plus, you have rewards and recognition, internal communications. Internal communications is all about connecting with your internal audience, connecting with your people, ensuring that they are completely aware of what's happening within the organization. So we'll come on that also a little later. But these are all the areas that we delve into, and ultimately, all of these together make communications a very holistic department, where they try and tackle various things, from driving the brand connect to visibility and awareness, building trust and goodwill, ensuring our leaders have the right space, they are the influencers and thought leaders, and finally also connecting with our own people. Okay, so we spoke about reputation. I just want to get into a bit of what reputation is. Most of you would be aware, but would just like to elaborate on that a little bit. Reputation is an intangible asset. Obviously, we all know. It's difficult to put a number to that or a metric to that. It's difficult to gauge where we stand in the reputation scale. But what we understand for sure is whether a particular uh, brand has a good reputation or not. That's very easy to understand, right? Anyone will be able to tell you, okay, this is a reputed brand, so you can go for their products and services. Plus, it's also the fact that reputation builds up over a period of time. So it is how you navigate it, how you spearhead it to a particular direction. And there are a lot of elements that can come under this, where you knowingly and consciously ensure that your reputation gets built up over a period of time. So yeah, it's a very important asset, though it's intangible, but it is one of the most important assets when it comes to decision making in this competitive era. And the brand connect, like I told you, and it comprises of three elements. Of course, good business performance, quality of products. All of this will come under good business. Goodwill and behavior, obviously, because if you don't have that, then perhaps it's very difficult to connect with your stakeholders. But at the end of it, and I think over encompassing everything, whether it's your business performance or your goodwill or the priorities that you have, is the communication you make to your target audience, the way you connect with your target audience by delivering the right messages, that will see whether you're able to really establish that connect. Just moving on to the next slide. Well, if you ask me what are the different stakeholders involved, all these stakeholders are involved, because we operate in the public domain, also internal comms, but more specifically in the public domain, where everybody's there, right? Right from shareholders to regulators to industry associations to financial advisors, investors, even employees and media. right? So all of them are in this public space. They all are witness to whatever is happening to the company, whatever communication is being put out, whatever developments they are able to, um, they whatever developments they come across for the company. So, I mean, they are all our stakeholders, and we need to be prudent when we are connecting with all of these people. But there is a reason why I highlighted media. Media is one of the most critical stakeholders that we have for corporate communications, and there is no second thought on that. And that's because I guess most of you would be aware, and you would be guessing it right. Um, Media is not just a stakeholder for us, it's also the fact that they can influence other people in the public domain. So it's equally important that we are we actively manage media, right? So even, I mean, the other stakeholders are also very important, but media management perhaps becomes the most important thing because they can influence public opinion. They can create and shape public opinion. They help you in building the brand credibility, and also talk about, all the latest developments within the organization, which kind of impacts the image of the brand, the corporate. And finally, it's not just about the positive impact. Media can also uh, have a very dicey role in portraying the negative image of a company, right? So you can have media helping you with positive brand building, and on the other hand, if there is something negative or some adverse situation is there, it could be the other way around, where media actually downplays your brand or creates an issue for the image of the brand. So it's very important that we manage this part very, very critically. What is it that, what are the triggers for media, right? All of these are triggers. I don't want to get into each of them. It's very clear, from customer oriented initiatives to products and services to financial performance, achievements, milestones, and also adverse developments. All of it can come under media. Media can pick up anything and everything that can make a headline. And also the fact that media can at times um, downplay certain things or can make a situation bigger than what it is. So there are times when there is an adverse incident and things become even more adverse when they get reported in media because it's shown in a particular light. So it's important that we keep all these things in mind, and when we are drawing up a media plan or a strategic communication plan for the organization, we keep all of these things in mind. So when we're talking about media management and what we need to do to be able to ensure that the right kind of messages move in or are delivered, you can see that this is something that is very common. It's the messaging house. It's called the messaging house, and we use it all the time to ensure that we are uh, right messaging the right capturing the right messages rather. So whether it's the umbrella messaging that you want to have, now this I have created only at an organization level. This could be even done at a business level. This could be done at a department level. All that we need to ensure is that it's the brand narrative has been driven by us and not somebody else, right? Because many a times, and I would talk to you about this, that sometimes I see our spokespeople, when they interact with media, it's the media driving the entire conversation, right? They have an agenda, they have some questions, they do keep asking the questions, and there is a reactive stance from the spokesperson, and they keep answering the questions. And what ultimately it results into is an interview or or an article which is completely driven by the journalist. But often, what we don't realize is that we've not been able to convey our own messages. Those are, something that goes in the background. And finally, we definitely don't have the right result. So it's important that when we're dealing with media, we create this messaging house. Like I told you, it can be created at an organization level. It could be, and this is a very broad thing that I've created. Core message one could be different from what I've written over here. It's upon the organization, what their priorities are, what their focus areas are. But it's important that you have this drawn up and you ensure that your spokespeople know about it, that you're all on the same page with regards to this particular messaging house, because it's important that you know what is your umbrella messaging, what's your core messaging, 1, 2, and 3, or even 4, 3, 4 messages at the max. And finally, what are your evidences or support points or proof points? So it's very important that we keep working on this over a period of time. Okay, now when it is about driving the narrative, especially in this digital world, there are many ways to do it. I mean, there are many channels, many tools. All of you would be aware. Now, previously, it used to be only print articles, TV interviews, speaker opportunities. Now, of course, you also have case studies, white papers, and reports, etc. But these are one part of it. The other part, which has come up and has come up very well, is the online part of it or the digital part of it. You have n number of things. You have podcasts, and your website is one of the biggest things that you can really leverage to create the right set of messaging. You have EDMs, you have news wires, all of this, and this list you can keep adding to this. And today, if we have 10 of these, tomorrow I'm sure we could have perhaps 15. This list is just growing over a period of time. Which means that obviously this is a very big opportunity too. We cannot ignore this anymore. In fact, brands are embracing this wholeheartedly. And if you ask me whether it's traditional media should we go for or digital, I would think it's not about traditional versus digital. It should be a combination of both to give you the right set of outputs, right? So it has to be a combination, it has to be the right combination. But what makes digital media even more effective is the fact that, it's real time, first of all. Something happens and it's there immediately. So whether it could be good and bad both, but yeah, you can leverage it to your advantage. A second is the fact that it's shareable, highly shareable. Digital media is very shareable. And the third is, of course, you can access it from anytime, anywhere. And that flexibility is tremendous, which is not the case with traditional media. But at the same time, it's very powerful at times. When you pick up an ET newspaper and you see an article on the front page, it is powerful. So you cannot really put that off and say that, oh, this is completely gone and there is no future for this. It may take several years for us to say, oh, traditional media is completely gone and now we switch on to digital media. So it has to be a combination. That's what my thoughts are. Different people may have different opinions, though. Okay, so I have completed one part of it, which was more of understanding how the communication landscape and corporate communications as a function is evolving. And it has evolved, like I told you, in the last 5 years, there have been a lot of changes. And I've seen it all because, I've been into communications for more than at least 15 to 17 years. I mean, 20 years is my overall experience, but 17 years I've been doing only communications. So I can see that there is a gradual shift towards digital. I can see that things are becoming more difficult when it comes to controlling the messaging. You've seen what kind of stakeholders we're dealing with, right? The entire gamut of stakeholders out there. It's for all to consume. And finally, you can also see what are the channels and the tools that you have in both traditional media and digital media. Here, I would like to take a pause in case there is somebody who wants to just ask a question, because I really don't have any clue of whether people are really following this, not following this. So, Nandita, do you want to just check once quickly?
Yeah.
Because then I'll move on to the next part.
So we
Whether
do have.
am I very fast, Nandita? I don't know. Just give me that feedback, please.
No, I think the pace is completely fine. We do have a couple of questions from our audience, and
Okay.
in spite of your bad throat, I think you're
Yeah.
going great. So
All right.
yes, the question we have is from Grishina. Um, is it possible to start from development internal communication in startup to fix gaps for free desk employees? from what point should it be started, like audit current company communication channels?
So you want to understand how internal communication can be started, right? So yeah, I mean, we have to start from scratch. Obviously, we'll have to figure out first of all what are the channels. If there are channels that are already existing, what are they, and are they doing the job they're supposed to? Are they effective? If not, I think we have to um, just start from the beginning and say that, okay, these are the channels we have. Now, these days, internal communications, like external communications, is very digitally oriented, okay? You have EDMs that goes out to people, electronic direct mailers. You have digiwalls and screensavers. All of these are digital media, right? You can have intranet in companies. Okay, now that's like, for example, Yammer, and there are other. They are very similar to Facebook. What we have in the social media space, similar, but it is only for the company people. So you can chat with your colleagues very easily. You can connect with people. You can put ideas together. You can form groups. It's very, very interactive. So you have to decide on what kind of things you want to focus on. There are many organizations who are ready to spend a lot of money to create that infrastructure. Intranet is one of the basic things. Intranet is different from Yammer and all that I was talking about. Intranet would be just to ensure that there is one common platform for all employees to come in and either engage with the content there or put up new content. That's one thing. Secondly, you could have the Yammers and the Facebook, the internal Facebooks of the world. Yes, that's a second. You could have EDMs, which are electronic mailers. You could have screensavers. All of these, plus a lot more. You can do engagement activities with your people from time to time. You could also, so the three basic things that you need to cover in internal communications. One would be information. You have to ensure that the organizational information is kind of percolating to the last person. You cannot just have the leadership discuss stuff and then the rest of the people are not even clued in. That cannot be the case. And it's easier to do for startups, especially because the number of people obviously would be limited. And it's the beginning, right? So for you to start talking to employees through town halls, through different leadership messages is much easier than in a huge organization. For example, my organization, Axis Bank, it has 1 lakh people. Whatever we do, it's such a humongous task to even get people in a town hall is like a giant exercise, even to have one webcast, you have to think of the software, you have to think of what will actually take your message to 1 lakh people, and everybody would be logging in at the same time. So there is every possibility that your bandwidth will be choked, and you will not be able to operate under that size, and your business will suffer. So all of these considerations come in when it's a large organization. For startups, it's much easier. So I think one after the other. One is information, a second is engagement, and a third is motivation. These three things, if you can put together in internal comms, you will have more or less a plan, which would be good to start off with. I hope I was able to answer your question.
I think yes, definitely very well explained, Ms. Piyali. Also, I think I'll also share your LinkedIn handle in the chat box for anyone if they would also want to connect with you post session.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy. Yes.
Yes, we do have a question from Mr. Shiv Kumar Rai. His question is if you would like to recommend or if there's any recommendation for social media role for startup organization.
Yeah, I mean, social media role. Any recommendation for social media role for startup? See, social media. So I'll come to that. The second part also has a bit on social media. So the second part covers storytelling and social media. Again, I have touched on these topics, and it's more of scratching the surface. Frankly, there's a lot more we can talk about. But yes, when it comes to social media, you can do a lot. Okay, social media can be used positively, negatively, both ways. I'll give you examples. I have some case studies with me. And the fact that you have to be, see, with social media, the point is that you have to be extremely careful and cautious because it's a double-edged sword. You can get a lot of customers via social media. You can project your company initiatives via social media. And the other way around, you may have a situation where people are complaining to you about your services not being right, your promises not being met. All of that can also happen over social media. So it's a double-edged sword. You have to be very careful. And whatever decision you take, it has to be very clear what is the audience that you're catering to. So it's not that we have, I know, 6 types of social media: Facebook, Insta, Twitter, and all the others that are there, WhatsApp. So I should start talking everywhere. That's not the right approach. I would think do it one at a time. Figure out which is your target audience, which is the most important tool or social media tool that would enable you to address that audience, and then try one after the other. When you know, okay, suppose you decide to be on Facebook, okay, have a company handle on Facebook. Once you are comfortable being on Facebook, tackling the questions there, tackling the attention there, all that you get, positive, negative, everything. Once you have a way to monitor it on a regular basis, and you know that, okay, this is now going right, probably you can think of a second one and a third one and a fourth one. But I would think it's one step at a time. So definitely positives are there, but you have to be very cautious. Yes.
If another question from Mr. Abhi, his question is, how can one find the core essence of social media messaging of a new brand? Please share steps or insights if you can.
Social media messaging and messaging overall, it's similar, right? I mean, messaging has to be consistent across all platforms, whether it is media, digital media, social media, everything. So messaging is a product of, you have to really brainstorm what is important for you and your organization. So the first step is to figure out what you stand for. What is your mission, vision, values? These are some very core elements that you have to fix first. Because once you have these, you will know what you stand for. And that's what you need to, convey to the external world. And of course, you will have certain products and services, you are going to provide. And what are these products and services going to bring to the table? I mean, what is it for the customer? Why would somebody really buy your products? So very clearly establishing what you stand for, what's your purpose. Second, how is it that your products are any different from the others, whether it's a product which is different, your service which is different, or a combination of the two which is different, or your brand connect which really stands out. Okay, and a third could be things like even your for example, you could be very concerned about the community. Now these days climate change, environmental issues are a big thing that people talk about. Large companies are anyway getting into that space in a very big way. Even small companies and startups, they should start thinking about this part, because people like to be associated with companies which are thinking about their environment, about the nation, about ensuring that they are part of a bigger ecosystem where the purpose stands out. See, everybody, you, me, everyone would like to work for an organization that has a clear goal and a purpose, right? We don't want to be part of a company which is just working for profits. So please ensure all of these things are built in your messaging. Your umbrella messaging, what your priority, what you stand for, that is very clear. What's your products and services? What is in for the customers in it? And also, what other things apart from your products and services and profitability matter to you? So clearly stating all these priorities will be helpful, and it should be able to give your messaging a clear direction.
Thank you. We do have a couple of more questions. Maybe we can take it towards the end of the session, if that's fine with you.
Okay, sure, we'll do that. So in the interest of time, I think we should move on.
Yes.
Okay. Wait. One sec, just a moment. Okay, so getting back to the presentation, this is Okay, so I was told that storytelling is something that we definitely want to touch upon. Well, it's very powerful again. See, we all know when we were kids, we used to hear it from our parents, and it used to be such an interesting session. We used to wait for the time, right? When is it that our parents are going to talk to us, tell a story? And so stories actually make it very different, right? It's one thing to have a conversation, it's another thing to tell a story. Obviously, it takes the interest levels to another level. And the fact is that, with the right kind of storytelling, and this is now let's get into the corporate space, why storytelling is important. See, again, it's a very competitive landscape. You can have differentiators in your products and services, but again, it's short lived most of the time. These days, technology is available to everyone. So today or tomorrow, they're going to catch up, right? And you may have an advantage of a few months, but ultimately, more or less, every product is available with every organization, right? So, what really sets you apart is how you communicate, how you service people, and how you communicate their services also. So, ultimately, whatever you do needs to be communicated. And the most effective ways of communication, one effective way is storytelling. And why storytelling is effective? One is that it humanizes the brand. it's so it's sometimes brands just talk in a very cold way as if they're just talking to somebody, but it's very important that you establish that relatability, right? If I can relate to a brand, if I realize that, oh, this brand has the same priorities that I have in my life, okay, and I have a similar thought process, similar to what the brand is thinking, the way they react to, certain issues in the country, etc. It's the same that I have. It obviously makes it that much more easier for me to take a decision. And sometimes the decision making is emotional too. So you'll see a lot of times brands come up with emotional ads, emotional communication, emotional stories, because it just helps you build that rapport and relativity. And once an emotional rapport is much more deep than any other thing, you can buy a product for its benefits. You can say that, oh, that guy has one extra benefit, so I'll move on to the other brand. But if you're emotionally connected with one brand, you might just say, no, it's okay. Even if my brand doesn't give me as many benefits, I might want to stick to this brand because I like it, because I can connect with it, or I'm able to relate to this brand. So even that happens in the world. And that intangible asset creation is one of the most important things today. The world is actually going to a direction, I feel, and that's the that's what evidence also shows, that people are becoming very brand conscious over a period of time. And it's not just the moment people rise above the basics. The basic would be to ensure that, okay, you have your food, your clothing, and your housing, and all of that in place. A little above that, as soon as you become aspirational, the brand factor comes in. And so it's so much more important for us to be able to effectively communicate that brand factor, that relatability factor. So yes, they are powerful, they are emotional. Sometimes you can set up a unique narrative, you can set up a niche for yourself through storytelling. You can convey your purpose very smartly. And one of the ways is by video storytelling, which we'll come to. So the next slide is about that. Is it moving? Not moving. Sorry, the slide is not moving. Nandita, is the slide moving for you?
No, it is not right now. Would you want to reshare your screen? Okay,
No,
yeah.
no, no, it's okay. It's okay. It has moved. Okay. So, storytelling, like we all know, storytelling is effective. But what kind of storytelling, right? What kind of storytelling is there? One is the normal verbal oral storytelling, which we all know, parents telling kids or somebody telling somebody, word of mouth, all of that. Visual storytelling, when you use pictures and other stuff to convey a story, a meaning in some way, a narrative, build a narrative. Written stories, we all read books, etc. So all of these are there. But right now, I think one of the most most powerful ways of telling a story is digital storytelling. And video is a videos are a way of telling stories in a very smart way. Usually the videos are short, quick, bite-sized kind of, not bite-sized, but maybe a minute or so, because that's the attention span you have these days. People are not ready to look at anything beyond a couple of minutes or even a couple of seconds sometimes. So it's important that you encapsulate um, your story or whatever you're trying to convey in a couple of minutes max, maybe a minute or 2 minutes at the max. And so the process is basically, just having a very unique idea. First of all, the subject has to be unique. You ensure you do some research around it, explore it, understand fully what is it that you're going to bring together to be able to say that in a unique way. Storyboard and scripting and all of that is definitely part of the process. Once you do the storyboard part is the most important, because it's where you define what you're going to say. uh, like they say, content is the king, right? So if you can define what story you're going to say and in what way are you going to say, what comes after what, and how is it going to be riveting, I think that's half the job done. And then of course the visuals come in, the images and the video, how attractive you can make it, and finally editing and publishing. So this is the overall gamut of storytelling, digital storytelling. And I will just take a couple of minutes here to tell you, to show you this film. Just see this.
कहते हैं कि जब एक दरवाजा खुलता है तो सिर्फ एक ही दरवाजा नहीं खुलता। आज से कुछ 25 साल पहले जब इंडिया ने अपनी इकोनॉमी को दुनिया के लिए खोला, तब खुली हमारी पहली ब्रांच। उस दिन इंडिया ने अपना एक नया खाता खोला और खुलने लगे तरक्की के सैकड़ों रास्ते। छोटे छोटे गांव में स्कूल खुले, ऊंचे ऊंचे पहाड़ों में एटीएम खुले, छुप छुप के पैसे बचाने वाली महिलाओं के लिए केवल महिलाओं से भरे ब्रांच खुले। बुजुर्गों के लिए बैंक का दरवाजा सीधा घर में खुला और जवानों के लिए देश के हर कोने में। नदी के ऊपर भी रास्ता खुला, जमीन के नीचे भी रास्ता खुला और नए पैसों से भरा हुआ वही पुराना पर्स खुला। विजय लक्ष्मी जी सरपंच बनी तो पूरे गांव की आंखें खुली। संगीता जी की चूड़ियों की नई दुकान खुली। शिभी जी की कंपनी के साथ साथ उनके गांव की किस्मत खुली और शेजवाल जी ने अपने नए घर में मेहमानों का खुल के स्वागत किया। 25 साल पहले जो खुली वो सिर्फ एक ब्रांच नहीं थी, वो थी एक ऐसी शुरुआत जिसने न जाने कितनों को खुल के मुस्कुराने की वजह दी और कितनों को उड़ने के लिए खुला आसमान। इन 25 सालों के लिए हम आप सबका दिल खोल के धन्यवाद करते हैं।
Okay, so wait, I'll just no. Sorry. Wait. No. The other video that we have. Okay, so this is one. So here I'm just trying to say, this is how brands can do the storytelling, right? It's very effective. So you can say all you want to about yourself and put it together in a very smart, crisp format, and say it all in the most effective way. I don't think any kind of other a PPT or or maybe a present investor talk, or nothing would have really nothing would have been so effective, right? And Nandita, I can see only you, so I'm asking you, do you think there is any other form which can be as effective as this, where you have pictures and um, the entire audio, video, visual, and the effect of the entire storytelling at its max? So all I'm saying is that just notice how these brands have told a story very critically, very effectively, and they have also won a lot of hearts. Okay. Another one. These are organizations I have worked for, so I know these. There would be several others, hundreds of other such videos that keep happening all the time. Okay. So those were two videos. I think very few things can be as effective as these to convey your story. Do we pause here, Nandita, for a few questions, or how is it? And then I can take the last part on digital, ORM and all.
Yes, sure. We can take up a couple of questions right now. So we do have a question from Mr. Meek. His question is, how do you see this campaign measurements with, these are directly, does this directly impact ROI, or how does it contribute altogether to the organization?
So yes, definitely you have measurements. Okay. See, in corporate communications, in public relations, in media management, you have very uh, clear set of metrics like share of voice, where you really find out what is your percentage um, visibility vis-a-vis your peers, right? Similarly, you have metrics to say, what has been your positive, negative, and neutral coverage, right? So those are metrics also that you have. You have metrics on figuring out, how effective some of your spokespeople were, where do they stand and where do they rank compared to other leaders. So these kind of metrics are surely available, and those are important. I mean, we keep, for example, in Access also, we keep, calling for these metrics from a third party, a neutral organization. They do the compiling and they send it to us that this is how the month was or the quarter was. And we do keep a tab on that. It's a regular analyzing process. And yes, over a period of time, that these are metrics that are, clear if your campaigns are. When you do a campaign, you obviously see a spike. And when you're in marketing communications, there's something called consideration value. Okay, now that is also something that people do take consideration. People do take into account when they are doing a campaign. So for example, there is an ad campaign that you run for a couple of weeks, right? And then you want to really figure whether the consideration value has gone up. So consideration value is basically how much people are considering your product or service after seeing the ad. So before the ad and after the ad, you have a comparison. So there are such metrics which are available. And you can actually use a combination of these to figure whether it's the right, it's giving a return on investment and the right kind of returns. So yes, it's possible. I hope I was able to explain this.
We do have another question from Shipra Sharma. Her question is, how can the informal communication between the organization and the client be controlled to ensure that right information is only passed on?
Sorry, Nandita, I can't.
Okay, am I audible to you now?
Yeah, yes, much better. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay.
I'll just repeat her question. Her question is, how can the informal communication
Formal
between the
communication.
organization and the client be controlled to ensure that the right information is only passed on ahead to the consumers?
Well, this is a tough one because informal communication is like you are just chatting up with another person, right? So what is very important is to train the people who do these kind of of course, people people all through all over the organization would be talking to other people. But at the same time, if you are able to constantly, especially through internal comms, if you're able to drive the right messaging, ultimately people will emulate that, right? And people will talk about the same messages. If I hear from my organization 3 times a week that we want to be environmentally conscious, so when I talk to another person in my industry or in another industry, I will perhaps say, yes, if this thing comes up, I will say our organization is very, very environmentally conscious. We have some goals which we have set up, part of our organization, we are doing a lot. We have already taken goals and, we are working targets, etc., which we're working towards. So I'll be able to say all this if I know it, right? So very important that we need to keep conveying it regularly, consistently to all people within the organization. That is very important because otherwise, if information doesn't percolate, obviously there is nothing else to say. Then you start talking your own, and then just an opinion is what you give, right? Or this is what I think about my company, or this is. But when you know that there are 5 messages which are consistently driven to you all the time, you will stick to those and you will perhaps talk the same language. So the most important thing is then it becomes important to drive that messaging consistently. Today's digital media, I'll read this up. Today's digital media is better, but on the other side, it has too much of dark side like dark net or your information available on internet, social. So keeping that in mind, do people involved fully in digital media or do 50-50, like half digital media and half traditional media? Okay, I see. There is a positive side and a negative side to everything. Okay, when science, even if you look at science, right, there are like chat gpt has come in, there are n number of pros and cons. You have the positives, like you can really do wonders in a very short span of time using chat gpt. You can create ppts and word documents and presentations and everything within seconds. It's such a blessing to, and such a productive element that can come into your regular day-to-day working. But at the same time, we're talking about jobs getting impacted because of ChatGPT. Half jobs will not be relevant anymore if artificial intelligent tools like ChatGPT keep taking on, right? So many of the things can be done just with artificial intelligence. You need not have human beings sitting there and doing the job. So there is a positive and negative to everything. You cannot really overlook that. So you have to be cautious. You need to know what are the pitfalls. You need to know that if I am getting into the space of digital marketing, I should be aware that these are the positives and the negatives. This is how it can impact me negatively. So it's very important to undergo a training process. You just can't jump into it without the knowledge. So most of the time, companies don't do it on their own. They try and also involve an agency, which is an expert in this area, so that they can, the digital, especially the social media part. Okay. They definitely, people, for example, all of the big organization would have a social media monitoring agency, so that you constantly monitor whatever is coming on social media. And if there is something which needs attention, you are able to do that, you're able to focus on that. So it is very important that we get into this knowing that there will be positives and negatives. And the positives are just too many. So you can't really ignore saying that, oh, because there is a negative, I won't get into the space. And the point about 50-50, I think traditional and digital go hand in hand to a large extent, even today. Of course, the part on digital media is expanding as we move towards our future. I mean, I think maybe another 5 years down the line, we'll have more digital media tools. So obviously the percentage will increase. But I think it'll take quite a bit of time before, traditional media completely vanishes. I really doubt if it will in the next 10-15 years. It'll stay for some more time, I'm sure, some years, in fact. So it has to be a combination of the two, because that's ultra powerful. Okay. Do I take another question, Nandita?
We can take it up maybe towards the last
After,
segment.
okay. Yes. All right. So we just continue with our presentation. Wait 1 sec. Is it moving? No. Okay, no. 1 sec. Into the next slide. No, yeah, there you go. Okay, the next one is online reputation management. Again, one area that I think many people wanted to know about. Well, this, let me tell you, I mean, the whole media space is divided into owned media, paid media, earned media, and shared media, right? Owned is, of course, your website, your blog, your content which you put out, the case studies that you may put out, infographics that you may put out. So this is something that you have full control on, because this is your bit. Okay, you have created that. So it's completely your, I mean, something that is in your control. Paid media, again, is in your control, because you pay for this media, and then you give the content for this, and you are able to then get it published somewhere, right? So it is sponsored, right? It could be an advertisement, it could be a promotional article somewhere. It could be a blog which is paid for, or an influencer activity that you do. So this is paid media. It's only the earned media and the shared media which is a little difficult to manage. Earned media difficult because, here a third party is involved, the journalists are involved, media is involved, some other news sites could be involved, and they would write about you. So they would write about you the way they perceive you, the information that they got from you. Of course, they will use the information that you've given them, but at the same time, ultimately, the story will be written by them. So it could have the right narrative or it may not have it. So yes, this is the other part, the earned media part, where you really need to drive messages very consistently. And last, not the least, it's the most happening place, is the social media, shared media space, right? Here you have all the Facebooks, Instagrams, Twitters, and LinkedIns of the world, right? This is a space which is most dynamic, where you have no control. Okay, the other three, the first two, owned media, paid media, you have some control. No, all control. Sorry, you are absolutely in control of owned media and paid media. Earned media, you have some control because you, at least you're giving the content, you're making people beat your leadership. They are talking to them, so some influence is there. And last bit, the shared media space, which is the social media, is completely dicey because very few things are in your control. So if your social media handles would be your owned media, okay? So if you have your Facebook handle, obviously you will own the content there. So that's owned media. But the general social media and shared media that you're looking at, Facebook, Insta, and all, where there are thousands and thousands of people ready to comment on you, ready to talk about your brand and your organization, that's the social media space, which is very dicey, difficult, and sometimes though it has a lot of benefits, it can be difficult as well, like I told you a little while back. Okay, now just look at these some mind-boggling stats, okay? 145 minutes is the average time that people spend on social media. This is a global figure. And for India, it is 141.6 minutes. Do you realize it's a lot of time? It's a lot of time. Just imagine we have, I mean, especially in Mumbai, I don't know which other places that you have joined in from, but in Mumbai, in a place like Mumbai, Delhi, all the metros, it's crazy. We're running all the time. We're running day in and day out. And we are still managing to take out almost 141 minutes for social media. That's a lot of time. Active social media penetration in India is 33.4%. That's a lot again, because internet is probably available to only 50 to 60% of the population. And to say that 33% of them are active on social media, it's quite a number. Just imagine the potential there. Then in general, 67.5% users in India. Wait 1 second, it's getting covered up. Wait 1 sec. Yeah, so they are on internet, right? 1 sec. I don't know why this is moving. Yeah, 67.5%. That in itself is a big number again. 90% of users follow at least one brand on social media. Now, that is also something to say. It's a statement because it means that 90% people are ready to absorb about brands and businesses over social media. 77% of businesses use social media to reach customers. Well, that's a big number again, and it's going up every day. I think 77% will soon become 88% in a couple of months, probably, or a year. 76% of social media users have purchased something they saw on social media. So this means that it's a huge opportunity. The potential is humongous. So we may we may think that, okay, it's a dicey field to be in. It's not in our control. Do we want to get there? But can you see the opportunity out there? So it is obvious that brands are getting into the space. They are trying to woo the customers out there through social media. And if done right, it can actually be a huge positive. But always with, the caution that it could go the other way too. Okay, so what is social media management? This is a very simple way of putting it together a very broad way. First, of course, is that you have to start with your target audience. You cannot just blindly get into it. You have to know which is your target audience, which is the right social media channels for that. So if you think your audience would be available on Insta instead of, say, a LinkedIn, then probably Insta is your place. But LinkedIn could be the go-to platform for many others. But LinkedIn in general is a platform where many businesses and most professionals are. So it's a place where everybody would find something or the other. So I think LinkedIn is a very safe space to be. I mean, safer than the others. For example, Twitter has now become X. So X or an Insta, especially X, is a very, very difficult to manage kind of social media space. So so create the right social media channels, create compelling content. It comes back to content is king. So if you have frivolous content, it will not make the cut. You have to have original, unique, smart, quick content, which will not take up too much time, but convey the message in a very effective way. Distribute content on social media. Yes, that's the next step. So you choose your channels and you figure that where all this thing can be put up. Engage in discussions and evaluate and analyze your results. So this is in all how it happens, but the thing that is continuously going to be there along with everything is the active and continuous monitoring and responding to the chatter there. Whether it's a LinkedIn or a Twitter or X rather, or any other platform, there will be comments and you will have to respond to them or at least attend to them in some form or the other. You cannot be just saying that, oh, let it keep coming, but I'm not going to think about it at all. That doesn't work. So you have to be constantly monitoring and you have to ensure that it's not going out of hand. Nothing that is happening in your organization is being portrayed in the wrong light on social media. You have to be very, very conscious of those things. Okay, so the final question is social media a boon or a bane? That has been the question all along. And like I told you, everything has a pro and a con. Okay, pros and cons are always that they are always existent, and they are existing with each other. So it cannot be that you cannot separate the pros and the cons separately. You cannot have any one of them. You will have to accept it and move on and ensure that you have a plan to address both, right? To take full advantage of the pros and to tackle the cons if they come in. But here I will just take you through a few case studies of social media where things have gone wrong. This is just for your understanding, and I'll quickly go through it. I think I'm conscious of the time. Oh God, it's 7 already. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. So an industry incident. Now, because I'm from the banking and financial space, I have most of the case studies from there. So there was this argument between one of the leading fintech's former co-founders, and I think most of you would know which is the one I'm talking about. But this broke over an employee's post on LinkedIn alleging unpaid salaries. And then, it just went into some kind of to and fro battle of words where one person was trying to talk to the other down, constantly showing the other person that, you were responsible for the situation. And it was in the founder's family itself. Okay, one person blaming the other. So it was just in full public view. It was a fight, a nasty fight in front of the entire world. It was really very, very sad because it obviously it was bad for the owners. It was bad for the company. Reputation got hit big time, and obviously it's something that you would like to avoid at any cost. So this is a learning that don't display your emotions publicly, right? And if you need any kind of escalation that needs to be done, has to be through the proper channels. It cannot be out there in the public. So don't forget that it cannot be in the public space. A second, a video surfaced on LinkedIn showing the rude behavior of one of the managers in leading private sector bank. Now, again, I don't want to take names here, but we all know the video that went viral, and it was something that people kept circulating for days and weeks. Articles were written about that. People started talking about it in every meeting and every social circle. So it was definitely a big, reputation risk for the brand. And, something of that kind is definitely not. So you have to be really conscious these days that your behavior can show up anywhere. Okay, one video that somebody clicks and puts it up on social media and you're gone. So you might as well always be in the right behavior. Please don't lose control of your etiquettes and the right kind of behavior. And the second is also for for any employee, for any organization employee, to put out something out there which mars the reputation of not just that one individual, but the entire organization is also not correct. So it is also about thinking what is right for the organization and the brand. A third one here, a journalist actually took a pot shot at our Honorable Prime Minister. He made a few comments. People started reacting very negatively to it. And these things take just a few minutes or maybe a few hours to get into a viral mode. And then you have thousands of comments out there pouring in, and you can hardly do anything about it because it's all there. It's happening real time and you don't know what to do. So it's a very dicey situation to be in, especially for communication teams. And we have seen such things in the past. I mean, not in my organization here, but in past organizations also, things have happened, and it happens to every organization. So point is that one has to be really careful. What is really going on in the social media? One individual can actually make it very difficult for the organization. The reputation of the organization gets hampered big time. So refrain from commenting on any sensitive issue, whether it's political, religion, sexual, all these kind of things have to be stopped anytime, okay? And the last case study that I have, there was one, again, because I'm from this financial services space, a lot of these examples are from that space itself. Somebody commented in a very wrong way on a molestation and murder case, right? And, very obnoxious comment put out. Immediately, they, it created a ruckus out there. People started attacking the bank's Facebook page. The rating fell from 4.3 to 1.4 stars. People started, kind of bombarding the page with all negative comments. So finally, the employee had to be suspended. So again, the point is that you have to be careful. Let's not make unnecessary, and this is obnoxious. I don't know how can somebody make a comment like this in the first place. And social media can really take your case if you don't say the right things. Or it's best to be quiet, not say anything instead of writing something like this. So this is another example. So while these are examples on the negative side, I also know of a great example of how a company used, I don't have it over here, but I can just generally talk about it in a minute. Nestle, if you know the Maggie case, okay, you remember Maggie was, it has always been a great brand in the, noodle space, in the instant noodle space, and they have a huge market share. And one fine day, FDA, which is the Food Development Association of India, they did some tests and found that Maggie has a high amount of lead and MSG in its content, right, in its food, in the noodles. Immediately, it asked Nestle to take back all the samples. Nestle initially said no to it. They said that, oh, this is not the right thing. And they denied it, actually. But then soon they realized that the social media channels are, full of customer queries, full of customer comments. People are asking, oh, is this Maggie we are talking about? And you know what kind of connect Maggie has with most of us, right? We've grown up on Maggie. We have Maggie whenever we don't have anything else, we have Maggie, right? So people couldn't believe it. But see how Nestle really tackled it. They use social media to get feedback from customers. They put up an FAQ on their website. They ensured they constantly talked to their customers while this whole thing was on. They were responding to messages, comments. Then they also, parallelly, they did a testing on abroad, right? Not just in India. India, there was this issue. So they went to UK, they did a testing there, they went to Canada. So Canada also cleared it, UK cleared it, and they said the levels were absolutely fine for consumption. So then Nestle came back, put up the statement on their website, and use social media very, very effectively to talk to the customers, saying Nestle is back, Nestle is safe for everyone to consume, including kids. And they turned the whole thing around. We are into the same, we are in the same position, as it was before this incident happened. We're all consuming Maggie again, right? So it's about how a brand could initially, which got a lot of flack over social media, turned it around very positively for their own brand to make it back again, and get back all the confidence of the stakeholders involved, especially customers. So social media, it's a dicey space full of pros and cons. You have to be very cautious, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity. That's what I have right now. So here are some very basic thumb rules I've put in place for most of the people. For communication teams, it's very different. It's a different ballgame to manage this space. But for most employees, this is something that one needs to follow. I don't want to read up. I've already talked about it. Basically, be sensitive to other people and don't talk about matters like politics, religion, etc., which can be a problem. No negative comments, etc. And if you come across such things, please do, immediately apprise your communication teams or whichever team takes care of social media. So this is in a nutshell what I had for today. Thank you. And I'm ready to take a few more questions.
So we have another question from Mr. Shiv Kumar. His question is, how can we develop storytelling through our customer channel?
How can we develop storytelling through our customer channels? Well, storytelling through customer channel would mean what? I just would like to, I don't know, which customer channel are you talking about? If it's a specific customer channel, then I could probably elaborate on it. So if you're giving a presentation to a customer, for example, you can always use videos. You can always use maybe some visuals, etc., to tell your story. Best is in the form of a video. If you are talking to a customer generally, one-on-one, then again, it's a very different thing. Then you talk about storytelling again depends on what you want to say. If you want to really convey a specific thing, convey how your organization has come up, you should know the facts and figures and you should just quote it in the best possible way. But yes, it depends on what channel you are talking about. If it's a presentation or reaching out through a particular mode of communication, it depends on that.
We have another question from Ms. Priyanka. Her question is, how much budget does a brand like yours assign to such brand campaigns? I think this is the most important question or the most curious one. So yeah.
No, so let me tell you, okay? We are the communications team. We build a brand and also protect it through mostly editorial stuff, right? Once in a while, we also make videos, right? Videos, of course, take up quite a bit of budget. It could be 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, depending on the treatment that you give to the video. Whether it's shot at the right place. If you're taking the camera crew to different places, then of course it would be one budget. If you're just doing it at one place, it's another budget. So all of those things come into the picture. But generally, communications team really executes things in minimal budget because it's an editorial, it's more of an editorial thing that we do. Mostly, whatever campaigns we do, 90 or 95% of it is absolutely unpaid. So we use our channels like, media, blogs, even some influencers whom we know sometimes, who've worked with us previously or something. Sometimes, of course, there is a monetary component to that also. But most of the campaigns that we do as communications happen editorially, so minimal cost is involved. But yes, if you're talking about an ad campaign, there would be a much bigger budget, and it keeps changing from year to year.
I think this is all, Miss Piyali. We've already crossed the timeline.
Yes, yes, a lot of time.
I'm sure it was a lot of concepts were discussed, and I'm sure it would definitely have been a happy learning evening for all our learners today.
I
Uh,
just hope so.
yes, and thanks a lot for investing your time as well, in spite of not being well. So yes, this is all from our end. Also,
Nandita, will it be possible to get some feedback from the audience?
absolutely, I'll be sharing it with you. We do have our survey form active. Post a session, the participants can fill in the survey form as well. So we'll
Sure.
share it with you. Yes. Stay
All
tuned
right.
for our 93rd Leadership Levers lecture, which is scheduled on 16th of December. That will be our last session for this calendar year. We'll resume back in January then.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nandita, for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for taking out time for this. Thank you.